right, so in this video, we're going to be covering solving linear inequalities. So first, we want to go over just the properties of inequalities. So you can see here that we've got two main properties, and I'm going to add a third one. But the first one we're going to talk about is addition and subtraction. So what's nice about adding and subtracting, so if I take my A less than B, if I were to add C, then I could add C to both sides and that's still okay. So this is an okay thing to do across inequalities. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. If you're adding, you can add to both sides. Same thing with subtracting. I could subtract C, any number to the left side, but I would also have to do it to the right side, and that is an okay thing to do. When it comes to multiplication and division, you are allowed to multiply and divide across an inequality, but there are some things that we have to keep in mind. So if I were to multiply this side by C on the left, I would also have to multiply this side by C, and that's fine. However, if I were to multiply this side by a negative, so if I am multiplying the left by a negative and I'm multiplying the right by a negative, I must flip the inequality. So flip the inequality when multiplying by a negative. Okay, now the same thing is going to hold true when we go to divide. So if I say A is less than B, if I were to divide by C, and as long as C is positive, then you are okay. But if you end up going and A is less than B, and you divide by a negative number, then that is going to give you whatever that happens to be over here, negative C. You have to flip the inequality. So if this was originally less than, it is now going to be greater than. So you will need to make sure that whenever you multiply by a negative or divide by a negative, all right, so you want to make sure that you flip those inequalities. That should be review, but just remember under those circumstances that that's when you're going to flip that sign. We also have another property that I would like you to write down, and it's called the reversal property. And all that means is like you can read an inequality left to right or right to left. So if I were to take a look at this, I could say that A is less than B, but according to the reversal property, I could rewrite that with the B first. But remember that A is still smaller than B. So if A is smaller than B, B is bigger than A. So you would just have to flip the sign. So keep in mind that when you do this reversal property, look at what number the arrow is pointing to, and make sure that that is always pointing to that number when you do that reversal property. All right, so now let's just take a look at number one. Notice that there is a fraction. I'm just going to give you an easy tip just to get rid of your fractions. We can just multiply by the common denominator, which in this case is 2. So I'm going to just distribute that. And 2 times, when I distribute this, 2 times 1/2 x is just going to be x, and 2 times 1 is 2. So now all I'm going to do is finish going and solving this like I would normally. So I'm going to subtract x. So I get negative 3x plus 8 is less than 2. I'm going to now subtract 8. So get negative 3x is less than negative 6. Divide by negative 3. Pay attention. X. Remember we divided by a negative. So we've got negative 6 divided by negative 3 is 2, but we must flip that inequality. And so that solution set is x is greater than 2. It says to solve, it says to graph, and then write your answer in interval notation. So that's the solution. The graph is just going to be a number line. All you need to do is put whatever number you have in the middle and just go one number above and below. It is going to be open circle, and it is going to be going to the right. So therefore, in interval notation, I'm going to start at 2, end at infinity, open circle at 2, and in parentheses at infinity. Remember, open circles are parentheses. All right, so let's take a look at number 2. I'm looking at this. I want to get rid of my fraction. So between 4, 8, and 3, the LCD is 24. So I am going to multiply every number by 24. And when I do that, you'll notice that things reduce and fractions are no longer there. So let's take a look here. 4 goes into 24. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 24. 6. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18x. We still have greater than or equal to 24 here. That gives me a 1. That gives me a 3, which gives me 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And then 3 goes here, goes 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So from here, I'm just going to solve normally. I'm going to subtract 16x to both sides. I'm going to get negative 34x is greater than or equal to negative 15. So from here, I am just going to divide by negative 34. And x is not greater than or equal to, we divided by negative. So we want to make sure that we flip this sign. So it's less than or equal to. It's going to be a positive. I'm just going to say 15/34, so a little less than half. But all we need to do is do a number line again. We could go 15/34. If we do 16/34, because we need one number directly to the right and to the left, I could divide that by 2, and it would be 8/17. So 8/17 would be here. On this side, it's 14/34. Divide that by 2, and it's 7/17. All right, so there's my numbers for my number line. It looks like it's going to be a closed circle, and it is going to the left. X is smaller than that. So that means in interval notation, the smallest number is negative infinity, and it stops at 15/34. It includes 15/34, so I'm using brackets. And again, infinity always will have parentheses.